morning and welcome to Satyavani. I am Sinile Kent. Before I take you through today's news bulletin, an appeal to our viewers. The country is going through a massive second wave of coronavirus pandemic. Cases are rapidly rising and our health system is under tremendous pressure. So, in the current situation, it is all the most important for all of us to take precautions and prevent ourselves from the infection. We have to go to the basics, that is, wear your face masks, wash your hands and face regularly, stay at home, but if you have to step out, ensure social distancing. Maintaining COVID appropriate behavior can save us and our families from being infected. And now for the top stories of the day. I am joined by reporters from across the country. And first off, let's go to Sanyukt for the COVID 19 update.
Thank you, Sinale. You are absolutely correct. Even when the peak of COVID-19 is yet to come, the number of cases and other stats are breaking all records. Unfortunately, this is the daily tally of the COVID cases in India. New registered COVID cases in the last 24 hours is 3,66,161, which pushes the total number of active cases in the country to 37,45,237, which puts the total number of cases combining both the waves to 2,26,62,575. Deaths in last 24 hours has been 3,754. Total number of deaths up till now have been 2,46,160. Now let's move to Mansi for the national news.
Now some national news. Delhi riots. High Court grants 3 weeks interim bail to Natasha Narwal. The Delhi High Court on Monday granted 3 weeks interim bail to former Jawaharlal Nehru University student Natasha Narwal, who was arrested in connection with the Northeast Delhi riots to perform the last rites of a father who died of COVID-19 on Sunday. The court took note of the fast that deceased Mahavir Narwal, who survived by a son, who himself is in self-isolation due to the pandemic, and that Miss Natasha was the only family member who could conduct the cremation of his father's last rite. The court was also informed that the deceased body was at the hospital in the city. As a condition of her interim bail, the High Court ordered Miss Natasha to provide her phone number to the local station house officer and to keep the mobile phone active all the times. It also noted the concern raised by police that she should not comment or tweet on the pending trial while on interim bail. At the time of surrender, Miss Natasha will have to furnish to the jail authority a copy of her RT-PCR test report. Now, moving on to Muskan for more national updates.
Thank you, Mansi. Ex-CM Manik Sarkar, CPM leaders say attacked in South Tripura by BJP workers. Tripura former Chief Minister Manik Sarkar, Deputy Opposition Leader Badal Chaudhary and others were attacked in South Tripura on Monday evening, alleged by ruling BJP workers. Sarkar, along with other party leaders, were on their way to Chantir Bazaar in South Tripura to meet injured party workers in another attack when the opposition leaders' group was halted and attacked by a large group of people and in the presence of Tripura police personnel. Sarkar said the ruling BJP's leadership is instigating miscreants to execute attacks on opposition leaders. People will remember these incidents. These will not be forgotten so easily. We have been targeted and it is unacceptable, he said. We have reasons to believe that workers from BJP are instigating violence in Tripura. BJP is afraid of the Communist Party and are hence intensifying their violence tactics after loss in 4 states in recent assembly polls, Sarkar said. Law Minister Ratan Lal denied the role of BJP workers in the incident. Nath, who is a senior BJP leader, said the miscreants could be former supporters who have turned against Sarkar and team now. A duty officer from the police headquarters said they don't have any complaints on the issue. Now let's move on to Bobby for some state updates.
Thank you, Muskan. Now for the state updates. Won't be able to send oxygen to others. Kerala's Pinarayi Vijayan tells PM Modi. Kerala will not be able to spare oxygen for its neighboring states due to a sharp increase in the number of COVID-19 patients in the state, Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan said in a letter to Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Monday. Kerala's main oxygen producing unit, run by a private company, Inox Air Products, was also catering to demand for oxygen in two neighboring states, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. The Chief Minister said Kerala has been sending 40 metric tons of oxygen to Tamil Nadu daily in line with directions of the Central Committee on Oxygen Pool. Vijayan said this would have to stop in view of surge in COVID cases in Kerala. Kerala has been an oxygen surplus state and helped other states meet the growing demand for oxygen. It needed just about 80 metric tons but produced about 219 metric tons in big and small units. But this was before the virulent strain of COVID started spreading in the state. Vijayan said the increase in cases had already led its buffer stock to dip to 86 metric tons. Now let's move on to Shubhanga for more updates.
Thank you, Bobby. Unidentified partially burnt bodies seen floating in Yamuna in UP amid COVID-19. Several unidentified and partially burnt bodies were seen floating in Yamuna in UP's Hamirpur. Two bodies were partially burnt, police said. In second wave of the pandemic, people have died in large numbers in villages and people out of fear are not helping one another. In such a scenario, they are dumping their dead into the river, a counselor said. He said they were looking into the matter and were also in contact with the police of Kanpur Outer and Kanpur Dehat. On Thursday, some passers-by spotted over a dozen bodies floating in the river and informed police control room. Meanwhile, an investigation was underway and efforts were on to establish the identities of the deceased. The state recorded 23,175 fresh COVID cases and 294 fatalities on Sunday. Moving on to Shrishti for political updates.
Thank you, Shubhankar. Moving on with the political news. Asked to rethink vaccine policy, sent it to Supreme Court. Trust us, no need for court to interfere. The center on Sunday told the Supreme Court that its vaccination policy had been framed to ensure equitable distribution. With the limited availability of vaccines and the fact that vaccinating the entire country was not possible in one go due to the suddenness of the pandemic. The policy requires no interference by this honorable court, as while dealing with the pandemic of this magnitude, the executive does not have room for free play in the joints. In large public interest, it said. On April 30, the Supreme Court, while hearing a suo motu matter with regard to COVID-19 management issues, had called for revisiting the center's revised COVID-19 vaccine procurement policy, saying, the manner in which the current policy has been framed would be prima facie result in a detriment to the right to public health, which is an integral element of Article 21 of the Constitution. On pricing, the center's affidavit says that although states procure the vaccines, the center has, by conducting informal consultations with the vaccine manufacturers, ensured that the price is uniform for all states. It adds to the distribution of vaccines among the states is also based on equitable and rational criteria to eliminate any possibility of differences in the bargaining power of the state, having a detrimental impact on the residents of other states. Now, let's hear from Avni for more updates.
Thank you, Shrishti. Delay Congress President's election due to COVID. Party top body at meet. Citing the COVID crisis, the Congress today put off one of its toughest and longest delayed decisions, the election of a new party president to take over from interim chief Sonia Gandhi. The Congress's election body has recommended that voting for a party chief can take place on June 23rd and the deadline for nominations could be June 7th. But Congress Working Committee, CWC, the party's top decision-making body, said the election should be deferred given the COVID-19 crisis. The decision to seek a delay was unanimous, said sources. In view of the nationwide emergent conditions prevailing on account of the unprecedented corona pandemic, the CWC was unanimous that all our energy should be channelized towards saving every life and helping every COVID-affected person. The CWC therefore unanimously resolved to defer the election temporarily in the midst of these challenging times, said a Congress resolution after the meeting. which featured Priyanka Gandhi Vadra but not Rahul Gandhi, who was said to be unwell. The latest state election have only emphasized the Congress's state of disarray. But while talking of uh, interception, the party has again stalled the decision. Rahul Gandhi has been taking the lead in Congress's attacks on the government and Prime Minister Narendra Modi, but he has emphatically refused to return as Congress president. Today he was not present at the CWC meet as he is said to be still unwell after his COVID infection. Now let's move to Surbi for more updates.
Thank you, Avni. Center defends its vaccine policy, urges against overzealous judicial intervention. It is submitted that in view of the unprecedented and peculiar circumstances, the wisdom of the executive should be trusted, the affidavit by the government said. In a late night affidavit submitted in the Supreme Court, the center it defended its COVID-19 vaccination policy, which has been criticized for differential pricing, shortage of doses, and slow rollout. The center added that the price factor will not have any impact on the ultimate beneficiary, namely this eligible person getting the vaccines, since all states governments have already declared their policy decision that each state will be administering its vaccine to its residents free of cost. Urging against judicial interference on its vaccine policy, the center's Sunday night affidavit said any overzealous, though well-meaning judicial interventions may lead to unforeseen and unintended consequences in absence of any expert advice or administrative experience, leaving the doctors, scientists, experts, and executive very little room to find innovative solutions on the go. The center said it is most respectfully submitted that in the times of such grave and unprecedented crisis which the nation is fighting, the executive functioning of the government needs discretion to formulate policy in the larger interest. Thank you.
Today's editorial is, for a change, BJP lawmakers are asking questions from their leadership. When asked about challenges in their constituencies, BJP legislators used to say, "Arey Modi ji hai na," but COVID has shaken them out of their comfort zone. Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath must be scratching his head in confusion and dismay. He visited Bareilly on Saturday, Union Minister Santosh Kumar Gangwar's Lok Sabha constituency, to take stock of the COVID situation. The next day, a letter from Gangwar, written on Thursday, surfaced on social media. The letter is a virtual indictment of the Adityanath administration, with the Labor and Employment Minister pointing out shortage of empty oxygen cylinders due to hoarding, black marketing of ventilators, and other medical equipment, patients having to run from one place to another for admission in government hospitals, and health officials not taking telephone calls. But Gangwar is not the only Bharatiya Janata Party leader to rep a party CM for COVID misengagement. Look at the following comments, and I quote, "Everyone knew that the second wave would hit India, but still nothing was done. Even today, we have a strong of beds and oxygen," unquote. And this, I quote again, "In the past 10 days, hundreds of people, including 24 friends, lost their lives due to lack of oxygen. This is the ground reality," unquote. Many would attribute these comments to Rahul Gandhi or some other opposition leader. But the first statement is by Narayan Tripathi, BJP MLA from Maihar in Madhya Pradesh. The second comment came from Arvind Giri, BJP MLA from Gola, Gokarnath. One may quibble that Tripathi is a known party hopper and had only joined the BJP in 2019. But the yardstick in today's BJP, which has many Congress defectors as its chief ministers, Pema Khandu of Arunachal Pradesh and N. Byron Singh of Manipur. Assam's Himanta Biswa Sarma is the latest addition to this list. But it's not Tripathi or Giri who are openly questioning their governments about COVID mismanagement. Tejasvi Surya, Bangalore South MP, has embarrassed B.S. Yediyurappa led BJP government in Karnataka, sounding a bugle about the so-called bribery for hospital bed scheme. Now, who is dissenting, and why? There are, of course, conspiracy theories in the national capital. Look at the CMs who are getting uncharitable letters and statements from BJP lawmakers. Yediyurappa isn't exactly Modi Shah's favorite. V.O. Santosh, a powerful BJP General Secretary, who's known to be anti-Yediyurappa, was quick to laud Surya for exposing the hospital bed-looking scam. Even earlier, BJP MLAs kept targeting the Karnataka CM, with the party high command taking a rather lenient view. I, for one, find these conspiracy theories a bit over the top. I would probably buy it if the Congress was in power. After all, the Gandhi family was known to keep regional satraps insecure by passively watching, if not encouraging, dissident voices. That has led to where the Congress finds itself today. The BJP leaders know the history of the Congress too well to repeat those mistakes, especially during a public health crisis like COVID-19. For once, one welcomes their show of disagreement or dissidence. For the past 7 years, one hardly heard BJP legislators asking uncomfortable questions from their leaders in the government. After all, it didn't matter as Modi or Yogi would get them re-elected, regardless of their performance as an MLA or a parliamentarian. Lack of feedback from these elected representatives is a major reason for the BJP government at the center and in states growing complacement as drum beaters surrounding the top leaders sang paeans. Criticism from lawmakers, even though targeted only at the CMs as of now, may probably serve as a wake-up call to powers that be. Thank you. And next up, we have op-ed. Agastya, you can take it.
Thank you, Sinile, for that rather insightful article. Now, going on with the op-ed, ignorance is not bliss. A few weeks ago, while chatting with my uncle, I randomly asked him whether he had taken the second shot of the vaccine. Very nonchalantly, he informed that he did not even bother with the first, as he believed that the world is yet to uncover a lot about the disease and vaccine protection. If an educated 50-year-old adult, having had COVID once, can remain this, then what about the general sentiment? After almost 18 months into the pandemic, the emerging variants of the virus continue to create havoc in developing nations. As we watch India battling a horrific, Nepal being hit with the same, we have ample reason to panic. Often the virus, mutations result in changing the shape of the spike protein, which strengthens the virus's ability to tightly and easily with the host cell, and at the same time, make it harder for circulating antibodies virus and remove it. New variants that spread easily and quickly are variants of concern, since they tend to cause the surge in case numbers, which puts a strain to the healthcare resources, leading to more hospitalization and potentially more deaths. To tackle new surges, we may encounter short-term lockdowns, and to avoid health system disaster, we need to ensure a smooth supply of oxygen, ICU beds, non-invasive ventilators, and therapeutics at an optimum level, particularly in Delhi and divisional cities. Meanwhile, mass-scale awareness to maintain health guidelines must be monitored. Vaccination, along with public health guidelines, can break the cycle of infection, transmission, new variants, and reinfection. Vaccine manufacturers are continuously tweaking their vaccines to ensure they remain effective against new variants. A combination trial is currently underway between the Oxford AstraZeneca, Pfizer, Moderna, and Novavax vaccines to study a mixture of vaccines' efficacy in bolstering immunity against emerging variants. The virus does not survive in a vacuum. It is us who let the virus enter our body, infect us, and give it a shelter to mutate to a stronger variant. Since the coronavirus remains suspended, continuous ventilation indoors is especially important when meeting in a group. Stop being ignorant. Vaccine as soon as it becomes available, and wear masks to avoid getting infected. If infected, isolate yourself. This will stop the transmission and mutation, and arrest the development of new variants to avoid new outbreaks. And with that, we move on to Harish with the opening bell.
Thank you, Agastya. Now let's move on towards the opening bell of the day, following with a research. Sensex tumbles 448 points to 49,054 in opening session. Nifty slumps 141 points to 14,800. Although Nifty remained in narrow range, the broader market showed good strength. Index forming continuous doji candlestick pattern on daily scale indicates indecisiveness. Now, the index is heading towards the crucial resistance zone 15,000 to 15,040 levels, and it could be essential for the index to cross 15,040 levels on convincing basis to continue the further rally till 15,200 and higher. While fail to cross 15,040 levels could provide sharp decline. The momentum indicator RSI is heading toward intermediate resistance of 60 mark, and whereas stochastic oscillators still remain upward. Thank you.
The impact of COVID-19 on India's manufacturing sector. Last year, the spread of the coronavirus pandemic came as a heavy blow to the world economy. As the world's largest manufacturer became the epicenter for the worst pandemic in modern times, stock market panicked and supply chains from China were shivered. It was believed that the US-China trade war would lead to added windfall for India. A year ago, it seemed certain that the shifting global dynamic due to the novel coronavirus crisis had the potential to pave India's way into the manufacturing sector. In 2021, India is in the worst grip of the variant of the novel coronavirus. Manufacturing in India has came to a near standstill as a sector with the maximum amount of backward and forward linkages, manufacturing crucial sustains and propels economic recovery. But restrictions on account of the surge in COVID-19 cases has led to a massive declaration in the manufacturing sector. The worst is yet to come both in terms of the spread of the coronavirus and slowdown of manufacturing, and the manufacturing crisis has been worsened by COVID-19. As intermittent lockdown are imposed once again, a majority of the manufacturing workers have returned to their hometowns because of uncertainty and lack of incomes. Now moving on to Srishti.
So today's cartoon is brought to us by Satish Acharya. Someone had to step up to tackle the crisis, and surprisingly, it is the Supreme Court and not the Supreme Leader. Now, let's move on to Agastya for some international news.
Thank you, Srishti, for that for cartoon. For the international news, why Jerusalem is boiling during Ramadan? East Jerusalem has seen nightly clashes during the Muslim holy month of Ramadan, with Palestinians pitted against Israeli police and settlers. The Supreme Court hearing was due on May 10th in a long-running legal case about whether several Palestinian families were evicted and their homes in Sheikh Jarrah, a neighborhood near Damascus Gate, given to Israeli settlers. Some settlers have already moved into the streets affected, living next door to the Palestinians facing possible removal. At the heart of Jerusalem's old city is the hill known to Jews across the world as Temple Mount, the holiest site in Judaism, and to Muslims internationally as the Noble Sanctuary. It was home to the Jewish temples of antiquity. Two Muslim holy places now stand there, the Dome of the Rock and Our Mosque, the third holiest place in Islam. Christians also revere the city as the place where they believe that Jesus preached, died, and was resurrected. Israel sees all of Jerusalem as its eternal and indivisible capital, while the Palestinians want the eastern section as a capital of a future state. The annexation of East Jerusalem is unrecognized internationally. Now over to Bobby for some more updates.
Thank you, Agastya. Chinese scientists discussed weaponizing coronavirus in 2015 report. A document written by Chinese scientists and health officials before the pandemic in 2015 states that SARS coronaviruses were a new era of genetic weapons that could be artificially manipulated into an emerging human disease virus, then weaponized and unleashed, reported Weekend Australian. The paper titled The Unnatural Origin of SARS and the New Species of Man-Made Viruses as Genetic Bioweapons suggested that World War III would be fought with biological weapons. The document revealed that Chinese military scientists were discussing the weaponization of SARS coronaviruses 5 years before the COVID-19 pandemic. Robert Potter, a cybersecurity specialist who analyzes leaked Chinese government documents, was asked by the Australian to verify the paper. He says the document definitely isn't fake. Potter further stated that it isn't unusual to see Chinese research papers discussing areas that they're behind on and need to make progress in. Now moving on to Trisha for more updates.
Thank you, Bobby, for this gripping piece. China to create line of separation at Mount Everest summit on COVID-19 fears. China will set up a line of separation at the summit of Mount Everest to prevent the mingling of climbers from COVID-hit Nepal and those ascending from Tibetan side as a precautionary measure. Everest Base Camp on the Nepalese side has been hit by coronavirus cases since late April. The Nepalese government, starved of tourism revenue, has yet to cancel the spring climbing season, usually from April to early June before the monsoon rains. It was not immediately clear how the line would be enforced on the summit, a tiny, perilous, and inhospitable area the size of a dining table. A small team of Tibetan climbing guides will ascend to Everest and set up the line of separation at the summit to stop any contact between mountaineers from both sides of peak. Xinhua News Agency reported. A group of 21 Chinese nationals are en route to the summit on the Tibetan side. The Tibetan guides will set up the separation line ahead of their arrival, the state-run news agency said, without describing what the line would look like. It was also unclear whether the Tibetan guides would be the ones enforcing the separation or whether they would remain in the so-called death zone where many lives have been lost due to dearth of oxygen to hold the line. The top of 8,848-meter peak is a small mound of snow with barely enough space for half a dozen climbers and guides at any one time. China has not allowed any foreign climbers to ascend from the Tibetan side since the outbreak of the new coronavirus last year due to infection concerns. Tourists in the Everest scenic area in Tibet are also banned from visiting the base camp on the Tibetan side. Moving on to Avni for sports update. Thank you.
Thank you, Trisha. Indian wrestling's image has been tarnished due to accusations against Sushil Kumar, WFI. At the peak of his prowess, Sushil Kumar single-handedly lifted Indian wrestling to unprecedented heights. But as police looks for him in relation to a murder case, the sports image has taken as much as a beating as that of the trailblazing grappler. Sushil Kumar's international success triggered a revolution and created an inspiring legacy. The reserve grappler from Najagar's Baprola village is still date India's only world champion 2010 in the sport. He is also the only one to claim 2 individual Olympic medals, as exceptional feat for a country which has seen very limited success at the Games. The Wrestling Federation of India (WFI) is concerned that the good reputation built over the years with stupendous international performances, many of them given by Sushil himself, has been ruined. The police is asserting the role of Sushil in a May 4 brawl that led to the death of 23-year-old Sagar Rana outside the Chhatrasal Stadium. The fraternity is now shell-shocked as the police on Monday issued a lookout circulation (LOC) against the champion wrestler, who is untraceable since the brawl that led to the death of a young wrestler. Not only this, but the incident that happened in February had also tarnished the image of Indian wrestling. The sport has struggled hard to earn a reputation because for long wrestlers were known only as bunch of goons. WFI Assistant Secretary Vinod Tomar told KTI. The WFI official was referring to Coach Sukhvinder Noor's involvement in the murder of 5 people, including a fellow coach Manoj Malik in Jat College in Rohtak district of Haryana. Sushil is also the president of the School Games Federation of India (SGFI), which was in news for all the wrong reasons. He has alleged that SGFI secretary had forced his signature to change the bylaws of the organization and also committed irregularities. He filed an FIR against the secretary in December last year and was re-elected president of the body in March after fresh polls were held on the directions of the sports ministry.
Now, some health news. While the world is still fighting the COVID-19 pandemic, reports of a new virus are emerging, which is called black fungus by the experts. So, what is this disease? A rare fungal serious infection known as mucormycosis and also known as black fungus is being detected relatively frequently among COVID-19 patients in some states. The disease often manifests in skin and also affects the brain. A number of mucormycosis cases are being detected in Delhi, Maharashtra, and Gujarat. Although rare, it is a serious infection. Experts from the COVID-19 task force says it is caused by a group of moles known as mucormycetes present naturally in the environment. It mainly affects the people who are on medication for health problems that reduces their ability to fight environmental pathogens. Sinuses or lungs of such individuals get affected after they inhale fungal spores from the air. Usually, micromycetes does not pose a major threat to those with a healthy immune system. Warning signs include pain and redness around the eyes or nose, with fever, headache, coughing, shortness of breath, bloody vomits, and altered mental status. According to the advisory, infection with mucormycetes should be suspected when there is local pain on the cheekbone, blackish discoloration over bridge of nose, nasal blockade, loosening of teeth, chest pain. Experts also advise that one should not count all cases of blocked nose as cases of bacterial sinusitis, particularly in context of immunosuppression and COVID-19 patients on immunomodulators. Do not hesitate to seek aggressive investigation for detecting fungal infection, they advise. Thank you. And next up, we have Harish for some more updates.
Thank you, Muskan, for providing the health news of the day. Snapdeal launches Sanjeevani app to connect COVID patients with potential plasma donors. E-commerce company Snapdeal has launched Sanjeevani to connect COVID-19 patients with potential plasma donors, joining the growing roster of companies that have introduced digital tools to help people amid the deadly second wave of the pandemic. In a statement on Monday, Snapdeal said it has created an easy-to-use platform, Sanjeevani, to use its wide reach in India, including across smaller towns and cities to connect people. The tool will be accessible via the website and mobile app. It added, patients and donors can register themselves with their mobile numbers or email IDs and provide relevant information like blood group, location, and donor-specific details, such as when they tested positive or negative for COVID-19 infection. Now, let's move on to Paki for next updates.
Thank you, Harish. So for today's science news, archaeologists uncovered Neanderthals remains in caves near Rome. Archaeologists discovered the remains of 9 Neanderthals at a prehistoric site near Rome, Italy's culture ministry said on Saturday. 8 of the remains are dated to between 50,000 and 68,000 years ago, while one, the oldest, is dated to between 90,000 and 100,000 years ago, the ministry said in a statement. The find occurred in a Grota Gotari prehistoric caves discovered more than 80 years ago, located around 100 meters from the coast of the Tyrrhenian Sea in San Felice Curcio, near Latina, in the Lazio region. Video footage from the ministry showed bones, craniums, and other body parts found at the site. Neanderthals, the closest ancient relatives of humans, died out about 40,000 years ago. It is unclear what killed them off, although theories include an inability to adapt to climate change and increased competition from modern humans. Taking into account other remains found previously at the site, there are in total 11 individuals present in Grota Gotari, which is confirmed as one of the most important significant places in the world for the history of Neanderthal man, the ministry said. They are all adult individuals, except for one who may have been in his early teens. Francesco Di Maria, head of the Rota Gutale excavation, said in a statement. Animal remains have also been found, including the auk, a last extinct bovine. Thank you. Let's move on to some crime news let's move on to Akansha for some crime news.
Thank you, Kaki. Now time for crime news. Activists from Bengal raped on way to join farmers' protests at Tikri later dies due to COVID. An activist who had travelled from West Bengal to join the farmers' protests at Tikri border was alleged raped on way to Delhi. She died on April 30 after contracting with COVID-19. The 36-year-old woman was admitted to Shivam Hospital 4 days before her death due to COVID. The woman's father has lodged a complaint with police in Bahadurgarh and an FIR has been registered against the four men. The FIR named Anup and Anil Malik, who run Kisan Social Army. The Sanयुक्त Kisan Morcha has said in a statement the woman was assaulted by accused on way to Delhi and after reaching the Tikri border. A week later, she was COVID positive. The Sanयुkt Kisan Morcha said, "They stand with the struggle for justice for our deceased woman colleague. The SKM has already taken strict action against the accused in this case and we are committed to take this fight for justice to its logical conclusion." 4 days ago, the Tikri committee of SKM has already removed the tents and banners of the so-called Kisan Social Army. The accused were also barred from participating in the movement and public appeal was issued for their social boycott, the statement stated. Thank you.
All right. Thank you to all our reporters for the top stories. And now I would like to have Trisha with a self-written piece.
Thank you, Sunil. Mental health matters. Dark past haunts me every night. Constant flashbacks and constant fright. The things I loved interest me no more. When I'm in lecture, all I want to do is get out of the door. Confusion and pain, energy is down the drain. Hurting myself to soothe the internal screams. How can I forget him? He is all I could see in my dreams. My father was everything to me. His accident carved a scar. I can't get over the fact that he died 6 months ago in that car. The anxiety and pain are consuming me. Can't bear the misery. Help me. Bring me out. Why do even I try? They can't hear me cry. Someone will always hear. Someone will always understand. Someone will always help. Talk and express yourself. Seek help when in need. Hardship and hurdles are a part of life. When you feel you can't go through them, a little push is all you need. Just remember, mental health matters. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Trisha. And now, today we decided we would take the opportunity to have a discussion with an expert around coronavirus. We all know and we are well aware of the virus that has put a lot of people's time and health at stake beyond our ability. And so to discuss on this issue, I have Dr. Bobby Benny from Kerala with us today. Welcome to Satyavani, Dr. Benny.
Thank you for having me here.
Thank you so much for coming. Now I'm curious. I want to, and I'm pretty sure our viewers want to know this too. So my first question to you is, when will be the right time for a patient to be vaccinated after he or she has recovered from COVID?
Okay, so there is no specific time which is actually which can be said that he or she will be able to get vaccinated after the infection. But the important thing that person should keep in mind is that he or she should be completely cured from the disease before getting vaccinated. And ideally, it is actually advised as a period of 1 month after getting infected. So the thing is that even though after getting cured, the body may have natural antibodies which give them natural immunity, it doesn't last really long, and the time period will be probably 6 to 8 months or something. So and this may vary in other people. So when you get a vaccine, this enhances the immunity that you have. And so you getting vaccination is really important. But also you should remember that unless you are completely cured of it, you shouldn't go for a vaccination. Because if you aren't cured of that, even if you don't have any symptoms, sometimes the virus may be inside you or something. So unless you're sure that you're completely cured, if you go to the vaccination center, there are chances that others may get infected from you. Though you may be recovering, but others may get infected. So it's better to wait for a month or something, and then you can go for the vaccination. Yeah.
Okay, now this question has been asked by a lot of people, and I want to know from you, how does COVID affect a pregnant woman? And what do you think are the best precautions that they can take?
Okay, so COVID affects everyone equally, but in the case of a pregnant woman, the immunity of a pregnant woman will be a little different because there are a lot of hormone changes in her body that occur when she gets pregnant, and the immune system kind of enhances in some places and it suppresses in some other places because the health of both the mother and the baby is important. So body naturally takes a change like that. So there are chances that likely if the person, if the woman who is pregnant, if she's infected, she may have a lot more severe infections, severe problems if she get infected. But the thing is that there is no such there is no such different precaution. She should take all the general necessary precautions like wearing mask and having social distancing, and it's better than she should try to prevent herself from getting infected. The thing is that there are no studies that prove that a pregnant lady when infected it doesn't give directly the infection to the baby, because when researchers have done the research, there are no traces of the virus present in the amniotic fluid or even in the breast milk. So but there are also cases when a baby delivered is tested positive. So it is completely totally unsure how it gets transmitted. So it's better to take all the necessary precautions and not to get affected. But the risk of getting affected is more in a pregnant woman, since I said the hormone changes and the immunity variations that she have. That is the only risk that happens.
Right. Now, this is also a very asked question. Why are N95 masks recommended while traveling?
Okay, so an ideal N95 mask, it actually protects the wearer against the potential pathogen, since it is very efficient in filtration of airborne particles. The thing is that these days there are N95 masks in the market with respirators in it. So that is actually a completely unusable thing, or it's actually it is not recommended at all, because these respirators, which is fixed in the N95 mask, it expels air without filtering it. So it is actually a danger to the person who's wearing and also to people around him. So the only important thing that you should keep in your mind is that you should wear a mask that gives you maximum protection. Though even if it is an N95 mask or even if it is a fabric mask, it is okay. So if you are wearing a fabric mask, you should wear a double mask. That means you should wear a surgical mask and then cover it with a fabric mask. So in cases of mask, N95 mask really gives more protection because it is made in such a way that it filters airborne particles. But even though if you don't have one, it's okay. You should you should wear a double mask so that it gives you somewhat similar protection. But the thing is that a mask never gives you complete protection. It's just a suppression measure that we take to not get affected. Yeah.
Okay, so one last question, Doctor. Can you explain to us in the easiest way what double mutant is?
Okay, so the term double mutant is actually something which is not so, what to say, it is not so promoted to say that, because people may get confused with the term double mutant. And I don't know much about it since I'm not a I'm not an expert in genetics. But the thing is that mutation is an alteration in the genome of an organism. And the strain which we say that double mutant in India is, it's actually called B1617. And it's actually a variant of the normal SARS-CoV coronavirus. And the thing is that the double mutation here we refer is that it had a mutation in 2 different coding sequences of it. That is, if I say the terms, I don't know if you get confused, but the one coding sequence is E484Q and the other one is L455 452R. So there was changes in both these coding sequences, and since it had 2 mutations, it was called double mutant. So the term double mutant is actually being criticized by a lot of scientists, and it is not actually appreciated that to use these terms. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I hope it has answered all of our questions. And since we have come to the end of our discussion, keep in mind every day we are learning more information about the virus, and therefore recommendations are changing every day. So I would really like to thank Dr. Benny for joining us today. And you know what? We will get through this. I know, I get it. It's tough for a lot of people, but we're going to do the best we can. So thank you so much once again, Dr. Benny. Okay, so that's all for today. Thank you. That's all we have for you in this edition of Satyavani. But before I wrap up and once again appeal to all our viewers, continue to maintain COVID appropriate behavior. That is, remember to wear your face masks, wash your hands and face regularly, and also ensure that you maintain physical distancing whenever you step outside. These simple precautions are all that it takes on our part to defeat the pandemic. Take care. Thanks for watching and stay tuned.